Hello everyone. I have to say I'm really stoked to be here, and as a dog trainer, getting to talk at the same forum as Dr. Reid is like just one of the #1 things. How cool is that? I do have a signed copy of your book from about 10 years ago. It's falling apart now. Thanks. So you might notice a bit of discrepancy here between what's on the paperwork, which says GAPNT, and what's on the slide, which says GRANT. It was pointed out to us that GAP is actually trademarked by Greyhound Racing Victoria. So we're in the process of changing the name, which is not a huge deal. And, you know, I did use GAP because people know what it is. But we are non-industry aligned or funded by the industry. Though they do let us collect their empty beer bottles once a week to trade them in 10 cents for each bottle. So 50 Shades of Greyhound. I'm going to gallop through this, which is quite appropriate. I'm going to tell you why greyhounds, the history of GRANT, a bit of talk about the dogs, the foster carers, our activities, why we do it, the future, and Joe, a case study. So I'll just give you a minute to read that. Now that's Victoria. Victoria has a dedicated greyhound rehoming program. They have full-time staff and they have kennels, and they still only achieve this. I personally find that appalling, and I thought, I'm going to do something about it. I do think they're one of the most misunderstood and abused breeds. Even the public have a bad perception of them. So some of the figures, 3,300 litres per year are registered with Greyhounds Australasia. These are industry figures. 13,300 greyhounds are named. That's registered for racing. So if we take 6 puppies per litre, which is a conservative estimate because greyhounds do have quite big litters, that gives us 19,800 puppies. So at a conservative estimate, that's 6,500 puppies before we start, before we go anywhere near a track, that disappear off the radar. Then you have the lethal industry sustained on the track while racing, and I mean, we're talking lethal industries, that's breaking a toe in this trade. And there's very little provision for life after racing. So that's why I chose greyhounds. So the history of GRANT, which is the Greyhound Rehoming Association NT, or RANT, as my husband likes to call it, because I do fairly frequently. So we were set up as a not-for-profit in February 2012. I found some professionals for the committee because I work for Amric on my day job, and I had access to 3 vets, so I made 2 of them join the committee. Someone popped up from the woodwork that had 2 of her own rehomed racing greyhounds. And then there's Barbara, who's sitting in the audience, and she's our mental health professional. I always advise you to have one of those on the committee. It's been invaluable. We started off with press releases and a bit of a unique angle, which is new to the NT. If you say new to the NT, you'll get coverage. So we're on the 7:30 news, along with the president of the Darwin Greyhound Racing Club. We have a sort of an interesting relationship. It's not adversarial. They know my opinion, but we do work with them. I'm not going to get dogs by spewing vitriol about the industry, but I'm quite clear in my aims, which I'll talk about in a minute. Don't be frightened to ask for help. I have to mention here Dr. Stephen Cutter, a vet at Ark Animal Hospital in Yarrawonga, which is in the NT. He did our first 10 dogs for free, so he did all the vet work. So we didn't need funds to start up. And he continues to do all our vet work at half price. So all our dogs are desexed, microchipped, C6 vaccination, because we have leptospirosis. Any health checks that need done, they usually get their teeth cleaned as well. So I've heard a little bit of a theme here about rescues. It's great to hear that we should all work together, and we do. But I think there is a bit of... in some sectors, we're seen as probably the equivalent of the mad cat ladies, because we rehome greyhounds. I fully own up, I probably am mad, but I do have some expertise. I'm a dog trainer. I've had sight hounds all my life. This is my dog Brock, who we brought over to Australia with us 7 years ago. He's the reason I got into dog training 14 years ago, longer, 15. Serious dog training, I mean, he had behavioural issues. So I do have experience with sight hounds, and as much as I love other animals, I probably wouldn't have set up a llama rescue. So the dogs. This is my favourite bit. Hot Pie, our first dog, adopted May 2012, living in Catherine NT with a small dog. Miss Mandy, she came down on the flight with me. This is talking about the coalitions. She's gone to Great Care, which is a little private rescue run by Dr. Karen Cunnington, who some of you might know. She's on trial in a new home as of last week. Emma, she was our second longest stayer. I don't know why. We homed 2 of her siblings, her brother, her sister. Her sister lives with Dr. Stephen Cutter, the vet I was telling you about. She's called leptospirosis because he names all his dogs after diseases. Look at that face. I don't know why she's stuck, but she's gone now. She's living with a family of 3. They love her to bits. Rocket. I was telling you about one of those lethal injuries on the track. If he'd broken this toe, they might have saved him, but he broke this toe, so they couldn't stabilise it. 24 hours to live. He wasn't even 2 years old. He had his 2nd birthday with us. Now living with a family of 5. Stripey Joe. He lives with Barbara. He lives with 2 dogs, 2 cats and a possum. He's looking for a home. He's quite an active greyhound. He's a great dog. Actually, that doesn't do him justice. It makes him look a bit nerdy. He's a lovely dog. Harley, our Frisian cow. He really looked like a Frisian cow. Dropped off at the vet for euthanasia February 2013. Adopted May, living with 3 children and another greyhound. I wasn't sure about putting this dog with children because his initial reaction was, oh my God, screaming toddlers, I'm a bit scared. The owners were very insistent, and they'd had a greyhound before, and they were very sensible with their children. So I visit 1 week in, and the kid that sits in the high chair had classically counter-conditioned this dog by dropping food. So he just loved toddlers. It was great. They do it for me. The kids do it for me. Cat lovers out there, we are not the enemy. Lots of our greyhounds live with cats. Cricket here lives with 3 of them. He was another drop-off at the vet. The vet then rings me, and we go and get them. We don't often have the luxury of doing behavioural assessments. We don't have kennels. Our dogs go straight into foster. I try and get them to come to my house, but sometimes I'm full. We're lucky now, 18 months in, we have experienced foster carers. There is a standard assessment for the greyhound adoption programs, but look, I tried to do it. You can't really in the circumstances we are in, so it's getting a gut feel for the dog. We look for amicability, that's the big buzzword. We look for dogs that want to be with people. We do cat and small dog test, but the failure is not a death sentence. And to be honest, in the NT, we're a very small industry. We get the slow dogs that aren't competitive down south. They don't have a lot of drive, or they have drive and they're slow, so they're not going to catch anything. The dogs, Bo, he broke his leg in a trial just below the hock, another life-threatening industry. 1 month later, he's running around, he's perfectly fine, living with a family of 3 and a cat. Danny, he's looking for a home. He is a great dog, 37 kilos, massive, lives with a chihuahua, guinea pig, chickens, and a pit bull. Foster carers, we could not do it without them. We don't have kennels, we don't have funding. We fundraise. I think we've frozen. Okay, there we go. Nurture them. Inform and educate. Things will go wrong, though. That is what you're there for. Things do go wrong. We've had nothing serious. We've had a few incidents, though. And it doesn't matter what you tell people. They'll still... I mean, foster carers are a trial for real life. So what your potential adopters are going to do, your foster carers are probably going to do first. Foster fails. They're going to do it. Just, you've got to live with it. I've been a volunteer at lots of different places, and I hate that dumbing down, condescending to that you often get, sorry. So involve your foster carers. They have life experiences. They may not have the level of dog training knowledge you do, but they're grown-ups. Involve them in the process. We have structured activities. We have monthly walks. We try and get them on the committee. One of our foster carers is currently organising a golf fundraising day for us because she's a mad golfer. Don't wear them out. We always have a roster, whatever we go to. Who wants to do 8 hours at Bunnings on a sausage sizzle? Not me. Let's have 3 hours. Just appreciate what they can do. Don't be negative about them. That whatever they can offer, we need to be grateful for it. Our foster carers pay for all the food for the dogs. We don't have any funding or any sponsorship. So they often pay for prophylactic treatments for fleas and things like that. It costs them money. They put their hands in their pockets. All we pay for is veterinary care. It's all we can afford to. So the activities, get out and get seen. People often think greyhounds are racing robots. They don't see them as real dogs. They think they're neurotic. They think they're highly strung. They think they're vicious because they wear muzzles, though in the NT we don't have to. So we're not 40 years behind there. Get people seeing them doing normal dog things. So we walk across along the Nightcliff foreshore once a month. So that's a place where people meet, have sundowner drinks, go on their bikes, have their kids, have picnics. We walk down there en masse. So think outside the box. We go to Darwin Pride Festival. We've had some of our best raffles there. The gay community's very, very generous, especially after a few drinks. Don't think that you won't be welcome at those sort of things. It doesn't have to have an animal sort of theme. Ask for a free stand. You know, we can't afford to pay $100 for a stand or $1,000 at the Sustainability Expo. Ask and you'll often get. Don't force your volunteers to go along. If they, you know, put a call out, and if they can do it, that's fine, but you'll probably have to pick up the slack with your husband. Have a tin, shake the tin. Point out to people that you don't get funded. You're relying on fundraising and donations. This is Cairo Bob. Now, if anybody wants an agility dog, he's obsessed with balls, and he brings them back. He's great. Big, bouncy, black, male, very friendly. This is us on the Nightcliff foreshore. We wander down, then we brave the jellyfish and the crocodiles and have a paddle. This is Hot Pie in the foreground. Again, we're at the beach. This is our stand at the Darwin Royal Show. Again, the dogs go in, which one? 10 or 5? Can I choose? No. Or is that both of them added together? No, that's kind of going up. I forgot to put up the sign. Okay. Right, okay. Darwin Royal Show, we have a stand in the pavilion with the chickens, the goats, the sheep, the petting zoo. We have rosters. The dog comes in for 3 hours. We never have one. We always have 3 or 4 because all that love is exhausting. Greyhounds cope very well with this. They're used to it. We don't bring along the ones that can't cope. We bring along the bouncy ones that are in your face and say, give me another cuddle. Because we're a not-for-profit, we can apply for community benefit funds, which don't cover core funding, but do cover things like this. So buying our signage, buying our coats and our collars and leads. Again, we get seen on the Nightcliff foreshore or anywhere we go. This is Richie. Richie had a story, so I went to the papers. Richie survived the 2007 Victorian bushfires. He had scarring on his neck, and now he's looking for a new home. That got me a double-page spread colour in the local paper. The only other thing that gets that is crocodiles. This is another magazine shoot for Darwin Life magazine. You don't have to have good-looking foster carers. That just happened to work this time. They're all very photogenic. And look, there is a greyhound that is sitting. Network, network, network. I mean, it's a continuing theme, which is great, and it feels like I've written my presentation after listening to everyone else, but I promise you I wrote it before. These dogs came straight out of kennels and went down south to Greyhound Rescue New South Wales and Kay's Greys, which is now Amazing Greys. We got that through Facebook. We were overwhelmed. We didn't have room. Someone stepped up to the plate and said, we can take some dogs. Toll Donata, which is a shipping company, ships them for less than they charge their staff. Otherwise, we'd be paying $1,000 per dog. We can't do it. It's less than $200. Why do we do it? Compassion, satisfaction. Look at that dog's face. If he was a cat, he would be purring. That's Bo that broke his leg. Look at Anne's face with Susie. You can't buy that. This is Rhonda. She adopted 2 dogs from us. Clarky on her left, the black dog, or her right. He was a bit special needs. He was a bit reactive on the leash. Her previous dogs had been both people and dog aggressive, so she was stoked to get a dog that was only reactive on the leash, and she could cope. And both those dogs live in their showroom and greet the customers. They sell spas. So we didn't give them both at once. Clark went in for a month, and then when he was settled, Dot came on. We do have an application form. We do home check all our potential adopters, and we have turned people down. Boots, a Gumtree giveaway. I met the owners of that dog, which are a syndicate of young men. They brought him up from down south. He still had his woolly coat from living in Victoria. Wasn't even 2 years old. He'd had 1 trial. They told the guys that he was useless, so they drove into the car park with him in the back of the ute. They didn't even know he was a crypt orchid. When I pointed that out, they treated me like some sort of pervert. I just have to bite my tongue and take the dog. And he's great. Look at him. He was a really shut-down, quiet little person in shock, but he's blossomed. Daisy. Daisy lives with 5 cats. Susie has her own private pool. Cricket gets pushed off the bed regularly by one of his 3 cats. So the future. I'm actually moving down to Canungra at the end of this year, but I am happy that Grant is being left in capable hands. We have an expanded committee. We've doubled in size. We have someone with a Greyhound experience that stepped up to the plate as the new president. That's not necessary, but it does help. I'm going back to Darwin at the end of next week for an appointment with the Chief Steward and the Minister for Racing. Darwin Greyhound Racing Club will receive $800,000 from the NT government this year. They got $500 last year. They got $600 the year before. I want some of that, and I'm going to get it. For Greyhounds Australia-wide, thank you, the parliamentary inquiry into greyhound racing in New South Wales is good news. It lifts the stones and it looks under them. And you all know there's plenty of slugs under those stones. So take-home messages. Consider a greyhound when someone asks you about what they should get for their next pet. It'll come up in a minute. Like I say, I do not demonise the trainers. I have an opinion. I try and keep it to myself, but sometimes it spills out. I have a dialogue with them. To be honest, I mean, there's a few bad apples. We all know about those. They make the news. Most of the trainers are doing something that is legal, that is supported, and is allowed by our government. We as a society have to take responsibility for these industries. We allow them. Our tax dollar goes to supporting them. So if we don't like it, we have a vote, we have a voice, we need to lobby. So how do we get to zero with greyhounds? These are the dogs that aren't on all the statistics you've seen so far in this conference. They're not counted. Joe. Joe lives with me because he's a bit of a bugger. Joe has had 150 starts in his career. That is 1 race a week for 3 years. He's nearly 7 years old. He'll be 7 at Christmas. Highly predatory, neither cat nor small dog. And small dog, I would include staffies, probably that size. He's very interested in chasing anything that moves. Noise reactive, hates thunder, hates fireworks, anything like that. He's the sort of dog that you're all sitting there quietly watching television and he'll just leap up and go, "Rah!" and everybody jumps a mile. So don't let people tell you greyhounds don't bark. Thunder phobia. He's a resource guard around other dogs. He'll guard his space. He'll guard his bones. He'll guard his toys. He's never actually done anything apart from go, bark and carry on. He lives with, I have 2 other dogs some of the time. 3 other dogs a lot of the time, 4 other dogs sometimes. He will, resource guard, but not attack. Toilet training's a bit iffy. His preferred toileting surface is concrete, so he'll go out the door and piddle on the patio. That's a deal breaker for a lot of adopters. He loves to fence fight with the neighbours' dogs, and he gets highly aroused and will nip through the fence. So I'm here all this afternoon and tomorrow. Answers on a postcard, please. And his eyes really do glow in the dark. Thank you. And he ate my Kindle. Thank you.